I'd really like to see Enix make that adjustment, put Ducky on a warrior that he can play aggressive on, that maybe Enix can be the one to try and invade onto Dignitas.
Well, into picks and bans we go. Enix will be first pick this time, which means that Dignitas shouldn't get the priority of Cyrus that they got last game, which Variety ended up on top damage, I believe.
Yeah, definitely the right call here. And Dignitas, I wouldn't be surprised if they just banned that Osiris away. Because just like Variety, Ducky was one of those players that was playing Osiris even whenever it wasn't particularly meta. You know he's comfortable on this character. And Enix is going to look to first pick it most likely.
Camazot's banned out as well, so Enix definitely don't want to deal with that. They think that Kivo Fred's Camazot's was one of the bigger issues. And the fact is they can't pick him first pick if there's things like Osiris available.
Osiris is available here, so is Ganesh, right? And Enix did a pretty good job with the Ganesh, but I don't know if it was quite as good. I think there were a couple opportunities where they could have gotten Gold Fury with that Ganesh ultimate that they didn't really take advantage of. Either way, it's going to be the Raven, so could be in the jungle, but that means Dignitas going to snap block that Osiris.
Instantly as well. What will go alongside it, though, is next question, really. Morrigan again, maybe, or is that too early?
Could be. I mean, Enix could play it themselves, so I wouldn't mind seeing Dignitas take it off the board, but it is going to be the Soul there for Zeros, so I love this pick. Takes it away from Lobster. Yeah, exactly.
Soul, Morrigan.
Yeah.
He doesn't need anything else.
Why does he need anything else? He certainly doesn't. Poseidon there for Enix. Interesting selection. I mean, it wasn't going to be like Dignitas is going to be taking that away.
Sure.
They already have Soul. That's likely for the mid lane. As well as the fact that Soul is slow immune during that Disapparate. Very difficult to lock her down in that Kraken. But, I mean, it's Papa Lobster. He loves this character.
And it's a little bit more control for the side of Enix this time around as well. I mean, they had some control in that, but this would be better with the Whirlpool. Should be able to cripple some of these characters out.
Yes.
Nemesis has been locked in, though, for Kivo Fred, and he likes to shred as much as the next person.
Love this pick. I mean, we saw Adapting do great on it earlier today. Nemesis is in a really good spot right now as a character. Very, very strong jungler. And Kivo's been one of those players that's played her all along in that jungle. No, he's very comfortable on it.
So we're expecting, obviously, with the Terrorban from Dignitas, they have a feeling that they could still get picked up in the support role here. No Ganesh ban at all, by the way. Just want to point that out.
Surprising to me. Surprising to me. I definitely think Ganesh is worthy of a ban, especially in that third banning, or second banning phase, I should say.
Or maybe he will. Sobek could be in the solo lane here.
Could be, but again, I don't like putting Ducky on these Guardians, especially against Variety's Osiris, and it is going to be the Wukong. I like this matchup a lot more. Now, it's still in Osiris' favor because he can shut down that healing out of Wukong's ultimate very easily with the Lord of the Afterlife. As far as warriors in lane up against Osiris goes, I don't know if Wukong would have been the one I would have necessarily chosen, but it's a warrior, at least, and that's going to be better than the Terra either way.
Jingwei, the final pick for Dignitas. So Dignitas taking a little page of Enix of like, oh, you ran Sol Jingwei, we can do that too. Actually, no, they didn't run Jingwei, they ran Kurdanos.
Yeah, and Arkill had the Jingwei, and he's going to just go back. He's just going to go back to it because he looked so good on it. Yeah, exactly.
Crit for
Why
days.
not?
Crit for days. So game 2, how are we feeling about the picks and bans now? Who's got the edge?
I like Dignitas. There is a lack of hard CC for them that I'm a little bit concerned about, but it's not that bad when you really consider it. I mean, you've got the root from the Khepri, the knock up from Arkill, you've got that silence from Trickstank as well, the root out of Variety, and there's plenty of team fight control without having a lot of just outright stuns.
I mean, realistically as well, last game Dignitas didn't have that much control in terms of CC either, and they still made it work.
They sure did, and I'm worried about Big Man Tings on this Sobek because Sobek in a Nemesis is tough. You can, as soon as you hit that charge prey, you're going to be eating a Divine Retribution basically every time.
Well, I'm just seeing what's going to happen at the start here, because it looks like Arkill Trickstank want to get lane pressure early on, knowing that because there's a Hou Yi on their enemy team, Hou Yi can clear jungle camps relatively quickly if he can set up the Ricochet bounce perfectly. That's why you've got Tings hovering in the jungle there. And the fact that you saw Funballer standing around the lane, he was trying to slow down Dignitas' advance in case they got collapsed on.
Love the idea there from Kivo Fred to stand in and take that root from Fails. Takes a lot of damage, yes, but that is the best lane clear ability that Robin has level 1. Means that Dignitas get the better end of the wave clear.
But do they go to the speed? No is the answer. They're going to go straight to the elementals instead. A little bit worried, I guess, about the 3v3 fight. Even though they had Variety had already cleared the wave against Sun Wukong, they could have gone for the speed, but went for the safer option.
But now they get to go for the speed because of the lane pressure that they have. Zeros is only level 1 still, yes, but it's going to be difficult for Ducky to steal this one away.
Well, what can Ducky do with 2 abilities? He hits both, but he's not going to be able to pick it up and secure it for himself. Kiva will get the speed buff from Enix's jungle once more.
And now Enix is going to the enemy jungle on that left-hand side, but red buff's already down. Arkill already has it, so instead they turn their attentions to the Oracle. So no buff invade quite yet coming out of Enix. Could look to group up and go to the enemy purple here, but Fails instead, potentially looking for a gank.
Yeah, might be swinging around the back here, or taking the purple on his own. We'll keep an eye on Fails in a second. So right-hand side, you can see Cube and Variety trying to zone in onto Ducky for a second, but Ducky's easily enough under his tower not to have to worry about.
And it really stinks to not have blue buff, as Sun Wukong, definitely one of those warriors that wants to be spamming their abilities, doesn't have a lot of mana sustain in that kit. Tough to ask to have him not have a blue buff early on.
So do you think Lobster's pick up Poseidon here, the team of Enix, like they picked Poseidon so early, you were saying they didn't have to do that necessarily. Was this just comfort?
I think so. I mean, there are times where you could say, yeah, it might not be the best pick in the world here, but we're going to pick it anyways, and we don't really know what else we want at this stage. Ducky may not have wanted to pick his warrior until he had seen the rest of the draft, and maybe Big Man Tings felt the same way. So Lobster just says, oh, you know what, I know I'm going to want to play Poseidon basically regardless, so I can take that here in just about any matchup and not worry about it.
And what exactly went on with Poseidon? Because if you remember, not so long ago, like 4 or 5 weeks ago, he was top pick in the mid lane.
The man. Yeah, he was the top pick. And really, in my mind, it was the resurgence of Raven and Chang'e in the jungle. Two characters with immunes that can get them out of Kraken very, very easily. And then everyone just kind of realized that Poseidon was good, yes, but not by far better than every other mid laner. Poseidon just had his time in the sun. In the sun.
In the sun.
Yeah.
One trick pony.
Time to shine or time in the sun, whatever you want to go with.
Sure.
He had that time, and he was the flavor of the month, basically. And it's now June, and it's just time for a different one.
So that's the question, then you just asked that as well. What's the new flavor?
I think it's Bolono. After these,
Do you think she's just flavor? You don't think she's too strong?
after the Death's Toll nerfs, I think that's what a lot of it is going to come down to. I mean, yes, right now the Death's Toll cleave auto attacks is pretty nuts. We'll probably still see some Bolono after that, but I don't think she's unbeatable in lane by any stretch. Maybe Wukong can kind of fill that role, though. I think that he can bring a lot to a team. We'll have to wait and see. You know, there's a reason I'm sitting here because I don't know what I'm talking about. Let's be real.
Okay. Mid lane, you can see Big Man Tings rotating on Sobek right now, trying to flank around the back, and I don't think Zeros has recognized it just yet. He will as the Kraken hits him in the face, and the Crocodile picks up the kill.
Love that play out of Lobster.
I did not think that was coming.
Absolutely no hesitation. Zeros was channeling that to Disapparate, yes, but who cares if he's slow immune? He's up in the air. No way for him to get his Aegis Amulet off.
And that's the key.
Beautiful.
He was still in the air, so he couldn't land the Aegis. If he would have hesitated an extra second there, Lobster, that's a different story. Maybe that's the reason they drafted the Poseidon Sobek combo.
I mean, Lobster is absolutely one of, if not the premier Poseidon player. He's the guy who brought Poseidon back during Season 3, I believe it was. He was the one, he was basically the only one playing this character then. Now, as I mentioned, everyone started to pick him up, but if I have to pick one Poseidon player, that'd be tough to not select Papalop.
And a beautiful Kraken. Fair play to Big Man Tings with a hot rotation around the back too. His choice in abilities, Tail Whip into it, just to make sure that he couldn't necessarily cancel use the Disapparate even before he set up for the pluck.
And not only that, but Big Man Tings recognizes that Zeros doesn't have any purification beats. He has that Aegis, so he can take the time to knock it up and guarantee that charge prey without much worry of Zeros finding a purification beats to get him out of the CC chain.
Now that first blood only even things up so far with Enix and Dignitas. Dignitas actually have a bit of a gold lead still. As you can see, the jungle on the right-hand side, which we keep discussing, keeps being stripped away.
Variety again, gonna get these fire elementals. He's basically had his name written all over these during this set, but this time around, Ducky's going to be able to play a little bit more aggressive, can defend his buffs a little bit better than he could last time around.
Yeah, for the time being, it's just going to all be stable there. So the 1,200 experience is more telling, I guess, more than anything else between the two right now. Is there anyone who's got a certain experience lead that's really detrimental? Is it? I'm guessing Variety's a lead again, obviously, in the dual solo lane.
Right, but it's not that 3-4 level lead that he had in the last one over the Terra that is really crazy and hard to deal with. I mean, either way, it's not too big of a lead. 2 levels at this stage is a little bit concerning, yes, but all it really takes is Fails making one rotation well-timed onto this right-hand side with that Sunder to punish Variety pretty heavily.
Just keep an eye on builds coming through. Both supports going through different options, Bombers versus Lonos. But Big Man Tings, thanks to helping getting hold of that first blood for himself, he's working towards his Thebes a little bit earlier than his opposition.
Early Thebes, such a big power spike for supports, and it's not just supports. That's why it's so big, is that everyone gets that power spike of those all protections.
Trickstang doing his best Aurora impression. I call that because him and Aurora are the only two that really do this on the supports, where you try and find picks over on the right-hand side looking at the solo lane.
That's no surprise that those two are very similar play styles and like to make similar plays. And you see it all the time, especially with Aurora and Tricks that they really can surprise these solo laners. They don't expect them to be on that right side of the map very often.
Interesting man fight going in here in the duo lane. Two very, very aggressive hunters with a lot of skill. Talking about skill, the wombo again, but this time round, Tricks was hanging around and Cuvo got his shield off too, which absorbed the majority of the damage.
But it was also the purification beads out of Cuvo, so win there for Enix overall. They spend one ultimate for an ultimate on Tricks tank and the purification beads from Cuvo.
It kind of reminds me of what Enix have drafted here. If there's something from the old days of London Conspiracy, if you remember them, where they had Cherio in the jungle, the Naja Scylla combination. That was the classic, but once you've seen it once, you give the game away because everyone knows, oh, that's the combo you're going for. Cool, all we have to do is deny one part of that combo. It's not as good as you once thought.
But it's not too easy to just deny Big Man Ting's plucks. I mean, it's not like, it's only a pluck at times, not necessarily that Naja ultimate, so.
Tricky to do against a Tricks tank on the Khepri, though, as well. I mean, against trying to do this against a Khepri, it's gives Tricks like a window now to realize, like, hey, this is going to happen. I know what's going to happen. I've got to be ready early on.
Big Man uses the Sunder to stop Trix's back. Look for the pluck as well, but couldn't find it.
Well, Lobster in mid lane, gonna get rooted. A little bit of panic there. Nice abduct, nice all-in combo. The Aegis finally learned, and there's the Sunder dot damage, but Cuvo will pick up the kill. Tricks, though, still in a bit of trouble here. Fails trying to swing round, and now with Ducky joining the fray too. Osiris stayed in lane. Fails has already picked up Tricks, and sadly, Ducky's just gonna lose his blue for that rotation.
1-for-1 in the mid lane, but it's mid laner for support, so Dignitas end up on top in that little engagement.
Oracle's on the left-hand side being contested over. Dignitas gonna pick those up, but Cuvo's a little bit out of position there. Luckily enough, Funball did not manage to find the Ricochet Mark of the Crow combo. Otherwise, Cuvo could have been in trouble too.
Very much so. That's not an easy area to be fighting Jingwei there in that rocks as Cuvo taking a lot of damage between Fails and Funball.
He is, and Big Man Ting's now turning up. Well, he's not going to continue to aggress knowing that he's going to be R-kill that he ends up looking. He'll just agility away anyway and face tank him pretty much.
That's another reason why we see Arco go back to the Jingwei in this matchup. No way to get knocked up and get controlled very easily unless that agility's on cooldown, but can do great work against Funball, up against Lobster, Ducky. All these characters have a knock up in their kit. Jingwei going to be able to really be the only character that can deal with those effectively.
Yeah, Enix seems to be a little bit slow now on when they go for the next aggression because quite a few of them got to finish off a couple of items to catch up with their opposition now. Specifically, Funball are up against Arkil here. You can see Igfal is completed for Arkil, whereas Funball is still going to take a trip back to base first of all.
And that's what you expect to see Jingwei a little bit ahead in items, just because even though both are 0-0 and 0, Jingwei can just back and buy very, very easily without any worry of missing any part of a wave. Can also be picking up those back harpies up off cooldown very quickly, and that's even better in Season 4 than it was in Season 3 because of how much these back harpies are worth.
Elementals on the right go the way of Dignitas. Both supports still hanging around the right-hand side of the map now, just giving the free farm to both the Hunters. No real contest out of anybody else on the left-hand side.
And that's what you expect from both of these teams. That's basically Europe as a whole right now, is very much leave the Hunters alone, let them do their own thing, and let everyone fight on the right side of the map. And again, that should favor Dignitas at this stage because of the fact that Variety's on this Osiris and has another lead. Not as big as he did last game, but still 2 levels up.
So the no-go attempts from either team just yet, Agra, but when we look at the two team comps, is there one that has a favored advantage? I mean, obviously you normally look at the majors, right? Poseidon Kraken versus Sol all in Supernova.
I think Sol does a little bit more in terms of burning the Gold Fury down, though Poseidon has better absolute secure if someone shows up from the enemy team. But you also got to look at the fact that Big Man Tings has excellent secure with that lurking in the waters. That can do a big burst of damage. Really, either of these teams can burn a Gold Fury pretty quickly. But I think I'd give it to Enix between that Kraken secure, lurking in the waters damage, and of course the sun's coming down from Funball.
And this is where the dance is starting to begin around the Gold Fury. The support so will be the ones focusing on the ward coverage more often than not, sentries for sentries. Big Man Tings was a little bit worried about a bait around that corner there. That's why you hang there for a second. Chose where he wanted to pop the ward down, but they traded out, so they both got vision around the Gold Fury for the time being. Now
Funball has the Echo Ball just evened up with Arkil in terms of levels, so could take the fight if he chooses to, but it's so difficult to jump onto Jingwei and all in because of the fact that you can just agility away from that dive bomb knockup.
On the right-hand side, I think we just saw Variety strip away that speed buff in the jungle from Enix too. There was nothing Ducky could do to stop that, so that speed buff's just down now, which is a small advantage for Dignitas, not having to deal with the extra mobility fails he's going to have.
This is the time for Enix to fight if they wanted, but Big Man gets knocked up in the middle of the charge prey.
Kraken on Tricks tanking it, it was raw and there was no real follow-up to it either. Different story for Dignitas, though, as they're going to force Funballer out. Arkil will not continue the chase, though. Going to back up Trixtank with Cuvo coming round 2. Fails is going to be fine after a little bit of a chop from Cuvo Fred. Nobody dies there, but a lot of commit room from both teams.
Unfortunate situation there for Big Man. Gets knocked up mid-pluck, and all of a sudden, Enix's whole engagement has gone wrong.
But they've straight back to the Gold Fury Dignitas now. Funballer still has his ult, as does Arkil and the solo laners. Everybody else, however, completely different story.
Just not quite healthy enough to be willing to tank this up, this Gold Fury. Arco still has his ultimate, yes, but I think he'd rather just go back to lane and continue to farm.
Well, Funballer, if he was just one hair step forward there, he could have got a couple of autos onto Arkil. Arkil won't be upset, though, because he can just quickly move back to base once more. Right-hand side, Ducky trying to defend his blue buff, and instead he's just getting wailed on once again by Variety's Osiris. I just don't think you can give him this character. Luckily enough, Ducky will survive. But it's going to be a trip back to base very soon unless Variety wants to hit him one more time.
And that's no ultimate, or no healing, I should say, out of that ultimate from Ducky. As I mentioned, that interaction where even though Sun Wukong is up in the cloud, if he get hits by Lord of the Afterlife before he gets up there, he's not going to be receiving any healing. Variety with that Mystical Mail, even with that cheap Gladiator shield, Variety's still that far ahead in terms of items.
And this is because he's pressuring the jungle too. So not only will he force out the ultimate from Ducky, he's got no teleport back. This tower is getting very, very low on the right-hand side. And this is just the beginning of the game. Once again, the pressure was too good from the Nemesis Osiris.
Very surprised we saw Enix go for Robin instead of that Osiris with the first pick. Maybe they had in mind the whole time that they wanted to pick Poseidon for Lobster, and you can't really afford to give up Robin if you're going for Poseidon, but I don't know. I mean, as you mentioned, I just don't know if you can afford to give Variety this god this many times.
And the biggest issue is you can see there's a 3,000 gold lead roughly in favor of Dignitas, even though they're the ones down in kills right now. It shows that Dignitas are working the map better, they're finding the experience in gold, and Enix are just having to be responding to that the whole time.
And where are those invades coming from? The Osiris on the right-hand side of the map, taking away speed buff from Fails, taking away blue buff from Ducky consistently. Just so difficult to handle in the early game.
And now after the 10-minute mark, the Paul Demon spawns, which means that's another potential threat. Dignitas grouped up quite heavily on the left-hand side, just leaving Variety now on the right-hand side to do his own devices, because there's not a whole lot Ducky can do against him right now. You just saw the beatdown he got. Lobster in the mid lane, he's getting a beatdown too. He will crack it in place, but Trixtank will celebrate as he jumps in the air for joy at getting the kill on his former teammate.
And Lobster's level 12, yes, but didn't get a chance to go back to base to pick up the purification beads. As soon as Trix locked him in with that abduct, Zeros knew right away he could just drop the ultimate and burst him down. And
now you can see Variety is now grouped up with the rest of Dignitas. The Portal Demon has been pulled and activated by Dignitas to try and take this for themselves. No response from Enix yet. Big Man busy defending the mid lane as now his Fails. So Portal Demon's free.
And again, this all just goes back for me. I mean, this Osiris pick has just been the difference maker for Dignitas time and time again. And I think that Enix is close. They can play with this Team Dignitas roster, and they're certainly not out of this game, but this late game composition from Dignitas is terrifying. Enix is much more early game focused, and they've lost the early game at this point.
Well, we'll see what Enix can do, though, because they've got a couple of items coming online now that will help them a lot. Gem of Isolation for Lobster for more control in these team fights. Ducky as well, working towards a Hide of the Urchin, which means he's going to be a lot tankier, being able to weather the storm against Variety and the rest of Dignitas.
But no real HP in that build, and he's only level 13, and plus, Dignitas has multiple Sunders and a Nemesis, so your protections aren't really that useful anyways. HP is going to do you more good at this stage of the game.
Mid lane, there's a couple of people there. Trixtank and Zeros just continue to farm out as the Gold Fury still stands for the time being. This time around, though, Ducky is going to claim his victory. He got his blue buff, and he's going to keep his life.
Now, but Big Man takes main not. There's a Nemesis ultimate, and Zeros drops the Supernova right on top.
Trixtank very late with the ultimate on purpose. Bait Lobster all the way in. It allows the rotation to come out from Dignitas. Lord of the Afterlife from Variety, looking for the pickup and Fails, and he'll find it. Zero's credited with a kill. Arkil just walks right up to the front line and is trying to bring down Lobster. The airstrike hits, but he's not good enough for the kill.
Variety's just able to dive a tier 2 without a care in the world. Finds Funball through both relics out of the Enix Hunter. Variety pretty low, but Ducky knows he still can't take that fight.
Yeah, look at what Dignitas do off the back of that fight. Take the red buff, go with the Gold Fury, leave Arkil in the mid lane, get the tier 1 tower. That's a lot of free objectives across the map that they got off the back of that team fight.
Man, this is a Dignitas roster that I think everyone was expecting whenever Variety's new team was announced.
It was
as long as everyone could keep the egos in check.
And that's the key for me.
But they clearly have, yeah.
Spring Split, I think there was still a little bit of like are we going to stay together as a team? They were talking about, they were fully sure, like, is this going to really work out? This split, though, looking like it is working.
Without a doubt, in my mind. I mean, 5-2 right now up on Enix, but more so than the kills, that gold lead is very significant. Over 8,000 gold in the lead, or excuse me, 6,000 gold in the lead.
That's 10k XP.
Yeah,
Jeez.
that's 11k XP, and that's crazy.
And that's the problem now, is that you mentioned yourself that Enix have got a bit of an earlier game draft than Dignitas. Dignitas' late game very, very strong. So as Enix right now, do you play for it, make a play around the Fire Giant? Are you looking to try and contest it, or even like try and brute force one to try and bring yourself back into this?
I don't know. I mean, Dignitas during the spring split, they said so themselves. Sometimes when they get a little bit of a lead, they can make some plays that give up that lead at times. So I think if I'm Enix, I just try and weather the storm for the moment and wait for Dignitas to try and make a mistake. But with the way Dig has played so far today, I'm not so confident that they'd find one to capitalize off of.
Well, they'll let the Hunters alone in the duo lane once again. Arkill now just stretching his lead to just over 2 levels now. Pretty sure Funball should hit level 15 off this wave, if my math works out correctly. There we go.
Good
and
math,
by math, it was a guess.
Yeah, I know. I
just
what that
had
meant,
a feeling.
Their Arco already has the short sword working towards that crit pretty quickly, whereas Funball just now picking up that hidden dagger. So pretty far ahead, Arkill, in this build, and that's what you expect whenever your team has gotten a Gold Fury, some Portal Demon action as well, and a lot of towers off the map. 2 tier 1s both gone.
I'm talking about the Hunter builds a little bit more as well. Most of the time now we're seeing Igval into execution, and then that's where it can be a little more flexible, right? You can either go the crit route or the penetration route.
Chin size or rage is usually the follow-up there.
Kraken on tricks, but he's going to ult himself, revive in place. Gem of Isolation going to slow him down a little bit, but he's going to escape on the right-hand side. Lobster, meanwhile, being focused by Variety, left alone yet again. Lobster, you've been on teams like this before, I can feel it. Trixie's going to go down to Fails, though, to make it a 1-for-1 so far. Ducky's in a bit of trouble, very deep in enemy territory here. Fire Giant now involved too, and Ducky's just trying to buy time. He's not got the cloud to escape, and Variety will slash him down.
It was a 1-for-1, now 2-for-1, but it's only Dignitas losing Trix tank. And I'm sure they're not too broken up about that one, only losing the support at 18 minutes.
Yeah, no one cares about support. Poor supports, man.
You're just saying that because you're a support, man.
Well, only sometimes. I've stopped doing it now because I want people to care about me.
I don't think anyone's going to care regardless, to be honest.
It's okay, we're casters. No one cares about us anyway. Right-hand side, there's no more minions coming in just yet, and you can see with Funballer hanging around that Arkill and him will continue to fight over that tier 2 tower on the right. Fails, meanwhile, though, has to deal with both Zero's Variety and joining the fray Cuvo Fred. He's got some backup out of Soulblade coming through, but already that tower was chipped to half health.
And you can't even allow Arkill or Zeros to take one wave under that tier 2 tower anymore, because that HP, it's not going to last for long. Zeros has that Obsidian Shard completed. Arkill, no real penetration on the towers quite yet with Flat Pen, but just enough attack speed and outright damage that you really can't afford to let either of these guys get underneath the tower.
Dignitas straight in position to go towards the Portal Demon. Half health already. Nobody around for Enix, even if they get there. And at this point, the Portal Demon will already go to Dignitas, and Enix are now sat under their tier 2 towers with the Fire Giant potential threat from Dignitas looming.
And again, going back to that last engagement where Enix found 1 kill on a Trix tank, the Plek was onto him, everything was committed onto the Khepri, but it's onto a Khepri. Even if you could find the kill, he has that Scarab's Blessing, and that's what Enix's draft is meant to do, is full commit onto targets. Look at how many Sunders they have. Look at, you know, that Kraken is 1 target usually. Best case scenario, he might hit 2, but Khepri excels at shutting down comps that want to do what Enix wants.
Variety's just hitting away, and whatever moves in front of him, there is of the enemy team. That's all he was trying to do there. You can see left-hand side, Poseidon now rotating in is Lobster. He wanted to get a little bit more far from the left-hand side, and they understand what Enix were doing there, trying to get their mid laner up to scratch in terms of the levels that he is down against Zeros.
He just needs penetration badly right now, only level 14. He's got 2 completed items, and one of those is boots.
And it's the mid game where Poseidon really struggles, right? It's mid. Is it mid game or is it real late game?
I think it's a little bit more late game. Still at level 15. If he's up against other level 15s, then he can really burst you down with that.
Zeros could be in a bit of trouble here. Disapparate comes through at the right time. However, Lobster couldn't close the gap in time for the big old Kraken player that we saw at the beginning of this game, which was one of the only 3 kills Enix have found so far.
3-7. Dignitas just looked so clean in this one. Now up a little bit closer to 8,000, about 7,500 in total, and they've just been controlling the map all across. Not only for Riot on that right-hand side, who again has a 4-level lead now over top of Ducky, but Cuvo is consistently ahead of Fails in the jungle. Zeros was keeping pace, if not ahead of Lobster. And then on the left-hand side, Arkil was just all by himself on that island, which he's more than content to get all of his items ready to go.
Well, now with Ducky back in base, he may have to teleport in here if he's a little bit worried about the Fire Giant. But the Gold Fury at the same time, Zeros is showing the power of Sol, being able to solo this down. And I don't believe he's got that much lifesteal in the build.
Only Bancroft's talent, I think, is what he's got so far.
Okay, that's
yeah,
a lie
so.
then. I will pull back on that because I did not realize it was Bancroft's. I was like, yeah, not much. Bancroft's is plenty.
Bancroft's is enough. That
Yeah.
Radiance, because it's healing you for % of your missing HP, then when you're low, Bancroft's not only you're getting extra damage from the Bancrofts and extra lifesteal, but your Radiance is healing you for more as well. Bancroft's is literally the perfect item for Sol.
Dignitas not overly aggressive, really. They've just kind of set up a line of troops. You can see him right across the map from red buff all the way to speed. And they're just trying to continue to strip away the jungle, allow Zeros to farm the left-hand side, and kind of wait for Enix to make the mistake. If anything, this is just a strangle again.
But Zeros is going to be able to knock down this tower very, very quickly. As soon as Enix sees this, they send Funball back to base, but he's not going to be here in time to save this tier 1.
I don't think so either, and you can also see Cuvo Fred's going to take the red buff at the same time. So when Funballer, if Funballer did choose to come this way, he could have ended up getting trapped between the tier 2 and tier 1. Lobster, though, is going to fight Cuvo in the jungle here. Bit of a trade-off between the two. Lobster, though, does not manage to get hold of the red buff, sadly enough, and he will have to limp back to base.
Zeros is going to back, it looks like here. Yeah, he'll hit back to base. So I think this is just Dignitas waiting for the Portal Demon to respawn. No, they're done waiting now. They're looking at the fire.
Yeah, Ducky's the only one here to defend, and he's giving the orders to Enix to let him know that a Dignitas were going in. But they're not going in the Fire Giant anymore. They're looking at Ducky, and they will get his ultimate and immediately reset.
That's all they wanted there. They knew they didn't have any kill potential onto the Sun Wukong. Even if he's only level 15, 4 levels down to Arkil, 5 levels down to Variety. Still not enough to punch through that tankiness he has.
Keep an eye on Cuvo, swinging around that left-hand side of the speed buff here. He's trying to keep them all honest. The pluck on tricks is good, the Kraken is better, the knock-up is beautiful, and the ult can't even go off. Variety goes to the backside of the Lord of the Afterlife, though, to slow Lobster down, but that was a big pick for Enix.
Good CC chain there, and the double Sunder doing work, making sure that even if Lobster barely has any penetration, only the Spear of the Magus, that Sunder acts as penetration in and of itself. Good pick there for Enix.
But it's only a pick if they don't find anything else off it. You can see Lobster's gone back to farming. Enix at the right-hand side are trying to pressure a little bit, see if they can find a cheeky buff, but Dignitas are already defending the most important ones, that being the speed buff. They'll probably take a look at the blue, maybe lose that, or even the tier 1 tower on the right as well. So it's not all doom and gloom for Enix.
Enix throwing a little bit of life here. Ducky is trying to steal away that blue, will do so successfully. Cuvo's lurking in the jungle behind that rock.
If they notice him, he could have been dead there, but luckily enough, he gets away just in time. Still a trap, though, from Enix that I don't really think they realize they're being trapped on themselves.
Cuvo has the ultimate. He's lurking. Arkil forced to use his defensively, though. Now Dignitas tries to push in.
Oh, but only one slow onto Big Man Ting's not the real prime target here, but Variety is going to start to speed things up for a second. And with Dignitas now back to full force with 5 members, Enix back away, waiting for the ultimate of Lobster to come back available again.
And this is really what Dignitas wanted, was this Portal Demon anyways. Now just respawning, Arkil flying back from base. Already working towards that Deathbringer's got that short sword. Plenty of crit online, even with only 1 stack on that Rage.
Portal Demon started again by Dignitas for the second time. Funballer forced to beat early on. Cuvo invested a lot, and Variety still looking for the cleanup. Will he go over the wall? No. Cuvo still giving chase to Big Man Tings instead. Rest of Dignitas doing what they want to do, which is the Portal Demon, at the same time as burning relics from Enix members.
Arkil and Variety here with Zeros are going to start up the Fire Giant, but I imagine that Dignitas is going to have to peel off and take this fight if Enix walk in.
It's getting low real quick there, and as soon as Ducky turns up, he gets abducted, and that silence did so much work for the boys of Dignitas that Ducky's already had to use his Cloud and the ultimate of Big Man Tings too. That's problematic as the front line has no survivability left.
Variety finds Big Man with the Sunder. Now 2 with the Lord of the Afterlife. Variety trying to chase down Enix.
You don't need the Fire Giant right now of how this is looking. Variety does pick up Funballer, still wailing away on a couple more targets, but his ultimate from Trix Tank won't keep him alive, I don't think. No, he will fall down as it wears off. Lobster credit with a kill. Fails meanwhile though, out of mana, out of health, out of life.
Nowhere for him to escape to. That was just a little bit of, I don't know if it was Trix telling Variety to keep going and Variety hesitating, or if it was Variety asking for the ultimate and not getting it right away. Either way, a little bit of miscommunication from the guys on Dignitas. It ends up not mattering too much, though, as now they're going to get 4 members of the Fire Giant.
I do like the fact we see 4 Winged Blades in this game so far. There's more and more starting to come through because they realize the slows with a big impact. Obviously, Nemesis and Osiris going to be slowing a lot. That's why you see Fails and Ducky getting it. But seeing Variety pick it up to get out of the Whirlpool combination from Lobster is actually making him more of a threat because now he's like a juggernaut running at you at an even faster pace.
I mean, Enix has 5 slows on their side. I mean, everyone on Dignitas could really benefit from a Winged Blade, and you mentioned the Nemesis and the Osiris, but
yeah.
I'm looking also at Zeros with that Stellar Burst. That's a really potent slow, so Winged Blade basically a great pickup for each side here.
Well, Gold Fury is going to go the way of Dignitas very, very shortly. Nobody here from Enix to contest at all. Gold Lead is getting out of hand now. The experience was already in a crazy spot already, but 14,000 gold. There's a rough situation for Enix here.
Not where you want to be if you're Enix, and this was their chance to really put if there was any doubt in anybody's mind that they were a top team in Europe after their split with Obey, this was an opportunity for them to really accentuate that. But Dignitas took it as an opportunity for themselves to say where they belong in the European conversation.
This kind of feels for me, though, is that Enix is still a learning team after all. They've got Ducky and Fails who've just joined this roster, whereas Dignitas did sit together. And you saw their performances can be good from Enix. You saw what they did up against Obey when they got off to a great tear against them. But against Dignitas, you've had a little bit more time. If you make a mistake, you're going to get punished.
They certainly did. And again, I think that if you just look at Enix's picks and bans, I just don't understand why you give Variety Osiris 2 games in a row.
Yeah, I can kind of attest to that too, just because Osiris has just been unstoppable. Variety's Osiris has been unstoppable for a long time. And they could have picked it away, but they chose to go a different route with the Raven instead.
And that just leaves open this Nemesis pick for Cubo Fred, which is so impactful. I mean, he's got the 2 swords there, the Stone Cutting and the Mass Immune, and that's a ton of power, that's a ton of movement speed, as well as some really good passes on both of those swords. And it's full build now, got the Rune Forged Hammer. Not a lot of penetration in that build, really only coming from that Stone Cutting sword after the auto attacks, but doesn't really need it when he's stripping away all of your protections with his ultimate anyways.
Still surprised by how slow Digger's been taking the pace of this, though, with the methodical use of just stripping the jungle over and over, like doing back harpies there, instead of pushing down the lanes with the Fire Giant buff. Dignitas are really just taking their time about this. They're not wanting to go too aggressive too quick. They've been patient about it. The lead is so big, though, that they could just run this down.
I agree with you. I mean, they've still got a minute and a half left on that Fire Giant. Now they're going to start to turn their attention towards the Phoenix. A little bit surprised that it's on this side of the map. Usually we see teams elect to go for that left side Phoenix, but after knocking down the final tower on the right, may as well just go right for the Phoenix.
Minions are in play. Tricksank trapped inside the Whirlpool for a second. Tings will pluck Tricksank again. No full investment this time with the Kraken onto Tricksank. No, the ultimate wasted on himself. Variety, meanwhile, though, went straight onto Lobster, and Lobster could be dead soon. Kraken will save him for a second. The stun not going to come through. Great individual bit of play from Lobster there to keep himself alive and bring down the man-beast from the solo lane.
But look at how much space Variety created. Right side Phoenix is already dead. Mid Phoenix could be soon to follow. Yes, Variety dies there, basically suicides into the Titan room, but all in the name of the team.
Big Man Tings potentially looking for a pluck again here. He wouldn't really want a Tricksank if he can help it. Round the corner comes Cubo. They're going to force Funballer back straight away. Fails us that overhead kick back to the safety of his Phoenix, but this Phoenix is only at half health here.
It's not going to take very long for Zeros and Arco to knock it down. Trick's going to be the one to tank it. You see the 2 split up, making sure that they can take down this Phoenix.
And there's the airstrike from Arco looking to clean up Fails, but won't find it. Zeros, though, he cleans up that Phoenix.
That's all they came for. 2 Phoenixes down. Left side Phoenix still standing with Variety due to respawn in about 8 seconds. Enix going to back up and just let Dignitas retreat. Probably don't know if Variety's teleport is up or on cooldown, and if a solo laner like that just comes right back into the fight, full health, full mana, very difficult to take that squad.
So Dignitas clearly sit themselves near the top of the SPL right now over in Europe, alongside more than likely Obey, Energy, who's trying to play catch-up right now, I feel, based off last season. Enix still on the same page as Dig, do we reckon here?
It's tough to say so after how well Dignitas really dismantled
It's just the
them.
Obey set, that's all. I'm looking at the Obey set, I'm like, Enix have clearly shown they know what they're doing.
They clearly do, and I really do think that you could put Enix up against Dignitas on any given day, and Enix could find some victories against them. I think that Dignitas will end up being favored in those matchups moving forward, just because of how well they played here today, but I definitely do think Enix is still in contention to go to DreamHack Valencia. I mean, I think a lot of teams are forgetting about how well Rival is playing right now, and
that's true.
How well they played at both lands. Those guys definitely proving that they could carry that energy going online, not just at LAN. One of these teams is going to miss DreamHack Valencia.
Yeah, it's going to be a big talking point too of who misses and will the team even stay together if that happens.
And all 5 of these teams in Europe that we're talking about, between Obey, Energy, Dignitas, Enix, and Rival, all 5 of these teams, and for my money, could go to Worlds and make some noise there. I really do think all 5 are that good. Just a matter of exactly who's going to miss. And as you mentioned, it's tough because you miss a LAN like that and you want to make some changes, but at the same time, I think these teams have to recognize just how talented they are, and sometimes you're just a victim of circumstance, and that could certainly happen here.
Well, with only 2 Phoenixes down, there's only 1 more for Dignitas to take out, and that's on the left-hand side. The minions will do the rest of the work for them, although Variety's going to give him a swift boost along from the mid lane. The Phoenix on the left, though, is already dead before the fight even starts.
That's what Sol and Jingwei can do in the late game. Tricks misses the abduct, but Dignitas just waiting for their minions to push into the Titan room.
It's just 1 more push that Dignitas need, really. Just 1 more good team fight, and Enix just needs to basically hold on as long as they can, because 5 minions from everywhere. This will give them a chance to catch up if they can hold this base, because the minions will just consistently pour in. But that's also consistent damage to the Titan.
Zeros just needs to come in and drop this ultimate, basically. Shell is popped from Enix and the Suns from Funball, but already that's a lot of defensive cooldowns.
No focus onto the Titan yet. You can see so a couple of members getting low. Trickstank forced to will. Orkill will pick up Big Man Ting, so nice crit onto Zeros. That'll force him back for a second. Cubo Fred, though, big old slice and dice. He's going to put a lot of pressure onto Funball and fails. And Variety's there as clean up crew in the back line. He doesn't care about a fountain. He should do now.
Yeah, Funball is going to find him, but now it's only Funball left alive. It's going to be Enix dropping 2-0. Team Dignitas with 3 points up against Enix.
And that's all we have from Europe this week. Obviously, this is week 2 of the SPL. And next week, the patch hits, so things will get a bit more interesting for week 3 about where the meta shifts and which teams rise and fall.
Yeah, you always look to see how well these teams can adapt. Right now, I think things are going to change up pretty significantly. That solo lane in particular could see some new gods start to emerge after the Death Toll nerf. We have to wait and see.
Well, enough from us. Let's head over to the desk. Taco standing by to break down the last 2 sets.
Thanks so much, Hindu. And what a crazy set, Indy. I really wouldn't have expected that such a clean 2-0 from Dignitas against Enix.
I mean, you say that, but look how they've been performing earlier on so far this split. Getting to 2nd place to Obey Alliance during the Spring Split Masters. This team has just been doing so much work already.
A lot of people have been talking about it. It's whether or not they can really keep the egos in check. And it looks like the team has really sorted things out. And in fact, we have Trickstank here with us now to go over at the team dynamic as a whole. Trickstank, what's up, man?
What's up? What's up? What's good?
Pepe, how you doing, man?
I'm doing very well.
I'm glad that you're doing so well. How are you guys feeling in particular after securing a 2-0 victory over Enix? Was that expected?
I mean, right now we're expecting 2-0 against everybody, so I would say yes, but we're feeling very well. Especially after all, it is our old team. We don't have any rivalry there, but still, it's always lovely to perform very well against the people you played with before. So we're feeling good.
Yeah, I can imagine. And of course, I mean, we saw you giving the love bug hug to your former teammates plenty of times, but more especially, like, how are you guys feeling heading towards the rest of the split? I mean, you know that the meta shift is coming up with the patch, so do you guys feel like you're prepared for that?
I feel like we're a good team to figure out the meta very quickly, so I think we're very confident when it comes to meta switches and so on. So overall, I feel like the team is feeling pretty good, and we're doing better than ever, and the team dynamic have been way better than it has been. We weren't that good in the start in the team overall, personal wise, but like it has become very way better, which is pretty nice.
So for that team dynamic that you were just talking about, for the players outside of just the players playing inside your team roster, tell me about your coach Biggie and what he's been able to bring for your team in this split.
I mean, in the start, Biggie was not too respected. After all, he is Australian. Nah, sorry. No shot there. But no, seriously though. But after we got to know him, he's a very smart guy, and we respect him very much. So he's very good at like just basically teaching me how to shot call, creating strategies, analyzing the enemy's teams, how they play, and so on. So he's just very good overall when it comes to the tactical side, and that's why he's a very good coach.
Well, it seems like you guys are looking very ready for a potential qualifying to Valencia. So really, I mean, we know that you guys secured the 2-0 victory here today. Are there any upcoming matches that you guys are particularly scared or concerned about?
I mean, right now, I feel like the top 3 is definitely Obey, NRG, and us. So I think it's going to be those 2 teams that's going to be really interesting. There is Rival and Yanix, who you're always scared of, and like can always take a game of anybody because they are a really good team. They're just not that consistent right now. So I feel like it's going to be interesting against Rival, Obey, and NRG right now, and we're looking forward to that.
All right. Well, I mean, before we let you go, Trix, is there any kind of shout-outs you want to go ahead and give?
Shout out to QFed and Verity for just having fun and doing their stuff and carrying the game while me and Nicole are just chilling back and trying not to die. And shout out to Dignitas for being a very good sponsor. We're really happy with them. And other than that, no, just shout out to all our fans as well, of course. Of course. Well,
thank you so much, Trix. And that was TrixTank from Dignitas. He is their support player. And congratulations again to Dig for securing a 2-0 victory. And I mean, Trix isn't the only outstanding member from his team. I mean, we saw throughout that set, I think it was really Variety on that Osiris that was just completely manhandling a lot of Enix.
I mean, what can you say more than besides Variety? Osiris. He's just going to be running at you non-stop, just an absolute terror and a nightmare to deal with. This player has been going through some kind of crazy change since the past, because this is not the same Season 2 Variety before that we've known to see out of him. He's just has no fear whatsoever. He's always diving your backline, just all reckless-like.
Well, I mean, Variety has completely amped up his gameplay. The aggression that he provides to the team environment is just absolutely outstanding, especially when you consider that poor Lobster, man. Like, he was just left so many times. You just saw, he could tell immediately, like, he's like, okay, Osiris is going to press W at me again. Team, hello? And it's just gone.
He's the sacrificial lamb for his team. You know, there's always that one guy in your team that you just got to give up the life for. Lobster's that guy, unfortunately.
And, I mean, unfortunately for Enix, it does lead to them dropping the set to Dignitas, and I think that, again, it just so much credited to Variety, because I would say that Enix probably had a slightly stronger draft as far as a team fight was concerned, but because of Variety's control on this Osiris and the way that he just kept running at Enix, it just kept splitting them up so much that the single target selection that they had would just worked out every time.
It's all about the comfort picks for Team Dignitas. You're looking at Variety playing the Osiris. You're also looking at Zeros in the mid lane, playing that Morgan and the Soul. 2 gods that you don't normally see out of a lot of mid laners, but for him, out of Team Dignitas, they've definitely grown into this strategy that they want this magical burst damage for their mid laner.
Yeah, and you could tell, I mean, he even baited Big Man Tings in game number 1. I mean, Tings, I don't think, was expecting a Morgan invis right around that Fire Giant pit. So that was rather unfortunate to witness, but all around, Dignitas just incredibly strong performance. I would say, if anything, that this kind of solidifies what TrixTank was saying in that interview, that they are certainly probably in the top 3 contenders as far as EU is concerned. But we know how we feel about Dignitas, and I mean, we still have a lot to see from Enix. I agree with Trix in that they're a little unstable at the moment, and that's probably just because consistency is something you develop over time. I really like seeing what happened in set number 3 with Rival. I think a lot of people might have been anticipating this win from Rival simply because, I mean, they've been doing so excellently since the Gauntlet Lamb. But you still have to consider that Burrito GG are a very strong team. I think that they've proved themselves through relegations. They still obviously have a lot to grow on, but I'd say overall they are another team that I think could be similar to Elevate in that they look strong as far as taking potential splits off of teams.
Yes, Rival is just one of these teams that you can't really take for granted at all. They've been looking so solid and so confident in their picks and bans as well. We saw Ice Ice Baby just playing this Camazotz, just lights out on this god, always being an absolute nuisance. And even the Thor in game number 1, when he actually just held W, similar to how Osiris on Variety was doing such a good job holding W at level 1 against Death Panther.
And that's kind of the precision that you expect from somebody like Ice Ice Baby now. He's sort of established himself as one of those top junglers, and I think that it's very evident he's feeling a lot more confident in his gameplay and his willingness to just go in without hesitation, trusting that his team is going to follow up with him, which is what they did every single time.
He's been setting the pace for his team, following up with a bunch of buff invades, which also allowed Deathwalker to get off to a nice little start in the solo lane. But whatever Ice Ice Baby does in the jungle, Wolfie follows in that mid lane, playing a very interesting god selection today of just the Anhur.
Ice Ice Baby having so much control in that jungle, though, I think is what really permitted Wolfie to get away with this Anhur mid lane pick. It's not something that we're accustomed to seeing. It's a little bit riskier, considering it's always a risk factor whenever you take ADC into the mid lane role. I think it worked out particularly well because he could bounce back and forth between his jungler and his support to just have that set up for him so he could really get off all of his damage.
And what's cool about that is it also forces the enemy mid-mage to go into Dynasty, play it Helmet, and by having Vote play the Freya to compensate for the lack of magical damage in the mid lane, this forces also the enemy Hunter here, Caspainify, to not go into the Ichaival, to go into that Ironwood branch bow, which helps Ice Ice Baby in the long run.
Yeah, all Wolfie had to do basically was just follow up with his team, and honestly, I would say that was a saving grace for Vote, because typically you expect to see a Freya in the duo lane and you kind of just expect her to die off cooldown.
All
like
the
anytime
time.
she comes back to the lane. We saw a little bit more of that from Burrito, where they started to place some emphasis into that duo lane, and Vote was getting punished for a couple of overextensions and laughs and giggles, but I would say for the most part it was well played all around by the members of Rival, and for them to secure a 2-0 victory also gives them 3 points, which means that our standings now for these EU teams are just as close as they probably were at the start of today. It's actually incredible when you look at it. It's Dignitas leading the way with 9 points, and then you've got Enix, Energy, Obit, and of course Rival right there. So these 5 teams still at the top of it.
I would not be surprised if, honestly, if like Rival goes up to that number 2 position, Enix drops down to the number 5 after the end of week number 5. But with only 2 weeks complete here, we're seeing just where everybody stands at the time being.
And I think it's pretty easy to say that this is probably going to look very close, probably until the end of week number 4. I'd say right around week 4 is when we're going to be able to determine who's established for the top 4 for DreamHack Valencia, and that'll be really exciting. So that's my predictions. But we saw everything that EU had today for week number 2, and now tomorrow we're going to have some more SPL action, but this time with North America. It'll be Eager versus Flashpoint, starting things off, and just a lot of spicy matches all around.
4 teams out of Europe is going to qualify out of Europe to get into Valencia. Only 3 out of North America. Outside of that first match, we're going to have E United against Allegiance, Memory of Gabe against Noble to wrap things up, Luminosity against Monkey and Madness. So that should be another interesting set.
And while the standings in EU are all pretty nicely knit together, I would say that for NA, it's a little bit more unpredictable, because with all the roster changes that have been happening lately in North America, and probably a few still to come, it should be really interesting just to see how NA decides to play it out. So you guys make sure that you tune in here again tomorrow to be able to check out all the North America action. And as for everybody here from Hi-Rez Today, have a good night.